Now, you might have heard in the past about the amazing School of St Jude in Tanzania. It was founded by Aussie Gemma Sissia just over 20 years ago, and now it's educating close to 2,000 very disadvantaged children every year at a time in the school, nearly 2,000 students. Now, if you haven't heard of it, here's a little introduction, courtesy of 60 Minutes.
Here, there's no power, open sewers and mud huts. But her journey out of poverty has already begun, thanks to a remarkable Australian woman called Gemma Sissia.
My first donation for the school was from a friend from my hometown called Agnes, and she gave me $10. And I was so excited. And so I went to the bank and opened a bank account with that $10, and that started the fundraising for St Jude's.
St Jude's started with 3 students 14 years ago. Now there are close to 2,000 pupils being educated across 2 campuses. These kids are getting Tanzania's best education. Their uniforms, boarding accommodation in senior school, and 2 hot meals a day for free.
Yeah, now tomorrow a new book is being launched, The School That Hope Built, telling the story of this school and the remarkable Australian who founded it. The book's author is Madeleine Kelly, and I asked her about how so much good could come from one person's decision and her commitment.
Absolutely, Chris. It's just a remarkable story of hope, hence the title of the book, The School That Hope Built. So the school, Gemma sort of started with a vision and a dream, and she named the School of St Jude, which is the patron saint of hopeless causes. And who would have thought that her journey was going to bring hope to so many people and practical support to thousands and thousands of individuals on the other side of the world, thanks to Australian donors predominantly.
Yeah, it's incredible because Gemma's done this work building the school over more than 2 decades in Tanzania. So she's a great Australian, but she's really spent most of her life now in Tanzania.
Yeah. So she was 22 years old when she first set foot on the African continent and didn't think at the time that she was going to end up spending her entire life there. But obviously that's how it's turned out, for the better of everybody, I think.
I'll come to the book in a bit more detail in a moment, but first up, I want to talk about you because you're part of this story. You went there yourself as a young woman to help at the school, to work at the school. I don't know how long you intended to stay there, but you ended up staying there 5 years, working in the school and then going on to write this biography. So tell us about your journey and why it's become so important to you.
Yeah, so I first heard about the school back in 2009. I was 16 years old, sitting in a classroom in Adelaide, and one of my teachers put on a TV show for us that featured an interview with Gemma and showed the school. At the time, I think it had about 500 students. And then I remember just being stirred by that and feeling so inspired by the work being done in Arusha, Tanzania to alleviate poverty, and I just felt as though I wanted to one day visit. And then necessarily I turned my focus to my studies for Year 12, and when it came time for me to finish university, I ended up hearing again about the school by bumping into a young woman from Arusha in Adelaide who told me that it was still thriving. And so I visited the school's website a number of weeks later after seeing it featured on 60 Minutes and thought, I think the universe is telling me something here, and I applied for a job and got the job. I had intended to stay for 2 years and was so gripped by the cause that I ended up staying for more than 5.
Wow, what was life like living in Arusha and working at the school? Tell us about some of the hardships, but I suppose some of the satisfaction of what you were doing as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question, Chris. As it's a colourful, vibrant community, a fantastic place to work and to build connections with others. My life has just been so enriched by the people I've met there. And there were challenges because every day you are faced with extreme poverty. Just walking down the street to go and buy some bananas from one of the women selling them on the side of the road, you're walking past mud huts. You're seeing children who are not washed, who are hungry, who are staying at home to help with the chores and not going to school. you're seeing substance abuse in the community also. So you really are face to face with poverty and with hardship every day, as well as all of the other beautiful parts of the culture that are so enticing and that do give you so much hope. The people are just wonderful, and many of them very enterprising and resilient. Yeah.
Yeah, now tell us about the book. You and I have known each other a long while. We're related. You're a cousin of mine. I know you've always wanted to be a writer as well. So here you are, your first book, and entrusted with such a mammoth story. Tell us how you approached it and what you feel about the end product.
Gosh, it was difficult, and yes, it was always a childhood dream to be an author. I never ever dreamed I'd do something like this though, or that I'd have the opportunity to. So when Gemma invited me to take on this task, I said, sure, but really? And she said, you know, Maddie, St Jude's was built on people just having a go. And so I agreed I would give it a go, and I'm really glad that I did, because the book that we now have is a book I'm very proud of. I'm very, very proud that I think the voice of the Tanzanians is what really carries the weight of the story. And that was what I was intending to do through the whole writing process, was to have the Tanzanians using their own voices to tell the readers about what their lives are like and about how St Jude's has helped them. So yes, there are parts of my own voice in it, there are parts of my perspective, Gemma's perspective and her life story, but really the soul of the book are the graduates and the students and their families.
And you follow some of these lives through the school, young people who come from such poor backgrounds, graduating as doctors, the achievement there and what that can lead to in the years to come.
Look, it's just incredible, Chris. Gemma told me a story only today that completely blew my mind. So I was with Gemma in the biggest city in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, which is where our very first group of doctors came out of university back at the end of 2021. One of those students was a young woman named Hosiana. She was class valedictorian, so top of her class from the top medical university in the country. And now she is working in emergency as a doctor in Arusha. And several weeks ago, Gemma's mother-in-law had an asthma attack. They had to rush her to emergency. And who was there to help her? Hosiana, a student from St Jude's, who gave her top treatment, as you can imagine.
Isn't that incredible? That is karma coming back at you in a really good way. Look, It's a fantastic school. It's a fantastic story you've told, and you've told it really well, Madeleine. I really appreciate you joining us, and I wish you all the best of luck with the book.
Thank you, Chris. Really appreciate the support.
Yeah, The School That Hope Built. Hey, I've been lucky enough to get a sneak preview of this book, and it's a ripper. And if you buy it via the school's website, we've got the address here on screen now, then half of the proceeds from the book will go directly to support that school in Tanzania doing brilliant work.